In today's video, we are going to be diving into now Tropical Storm Chantel that has gone ahead and developed off the southeast coast. We've obviously been talking about this potential system before this point for probably about 5 days now, and finally we are seeing it all come together. Odds didn't start out very high, but they climbed subtly, which I've told you guys happens oftentimes, and we've seen this one go ahead and develop. So we're going to be diving into it today for a little bit of a special video specifically about this storm. So let's talk about it. Chantel formed, I think, overnight. We had a tropical depression status as of last night. So at some point overnight into this morning, we got Tropical Storm Chantel. Here is the cone forecast for this one, and as you can see, it's moving roughly northward, maybe a little bit of a western movement there, and it is expected to strike somewhere along the northern South Carolina coast, likely, where we do have tropical storm warnings in effect for those coastlines, as well as the southern coastlines of North Carolina. Obviously, as it moves inland, it's expected to strike the coast around 8 a.m. tomorrow on Sunday, and then by 8 p.m. on Sunday tomorrow, we do expect it to be inland, probably lower down to tropical depression status somewhere along that South Carolina and North Carolina border before it becomes a post-tropical cyclone or post-tropical depression, moving roughly northeastward through areas like Raleigh, North Carolina, and heading towards my neck of the woods in southeast Virginia as a much weakened storm, but probably a pretty big wind or rainmaker, better yet, with some wind for these areas. Let's talk about some of the impacts, though, with this one. First off, we have a sustained wind of 40 miles per hour right now. Only a movement of 1 mile per hour northward. So this one is crawling. It is crawling right now. It is expected to speed up a little bit, but right now the pace is nearly standstill. Looking at the National Hurricane Center's rainfall forecast here, we are going to move into model guidance towards the end of the video and get a kind of separate opinion there. But we do see the lighter green areas is 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, which we do expect for a lot of these, again, northern coastline areas of South Carolina into a lot of eastern North Carolina. The darker green areas is 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, which is when you start to get towards a pretty substantial amount of rain for one system. And then we do have those yellows nearby that South Carolina, North Carolina border and towards the coast there. That is 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. So obviously not a drastic flooding issue, but this is a whole lot of rainfall, and there will be some localized flooding issues likely from this amount of rainfall, depending on the areas, and susceptible areas especially likely to see potential flooding from this. But this is a large amount of rainfall. Nevertheless, looking at the risk of flash flooding, here is for the next 3 days overall, and we have a marginal chance of flash flooding in these green areas, leaving it at about 5% chance, between 5 and 15% chance of flash flooding. These yellow areas, which is basically from Charleston, South Carolina, all the way up the South Carolina coastline, up past Wilmington, and approaching these areas in here, which I think is like Jacksonville, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, in this area. We don't have every town on screen, but it's just to the west of Morehead City, in areas like that. This is where we have a 15 to 40% chance of flash flooding, so getting a little bit more substantial there. Most of this risk is Sunday, tomorrow. As we move towards Monday and Tuesday, that's when we're talking more about the areas up here towards Virginia and northern North Carolina. But really, a lot of these areas are going to have chances of flash flooding for a couple of days, a few days here, especially in North Carolina, where the risk lasts 3 whole days. Let's take a look at the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. You can see the percentages towards the bottom, but for the greens in general, we're at 5 to 30% chance of tropical storm winds. And then we move into the moderate category for like the yellow through the orange shade. That's going to be about 30 to 70% chance. I know it's kind of broad, but we see a lot of that for the South Carolina coastline and a little bit there towards the very, very southern tip of the North Carolina coastline. And we do get into that like orange, almost red shade there, especially again along the South Carolina coastline. That's where we have a better chance than not of seeing tropical storm force winds. So right around 39-mile-per-hour winds. That is gusty towards, minor damage type winds. So definitely going to want to watch out for that. Let's take a look at some of this model guidance for using our NAM 3KM model. This is obviously a storm that is happening over the next 3 days. So we're able to use this very high resolution model guidance to get a really, really good handle on some of our guidance here. We're looking at the simulated radar, and as we move towards this afternoon, we already are seeing some thunderstorms getting thrown off from this storm for areas of South Carolina and North Carolina. Obviously, when we have a storm like a tropical system that has spin to it, you do usually inherently have at least a very, very slim chance of tornadoes. Sometimes we see a lot of tornadoes in these systems, so it just depends on the dynamics. But be on the lookout for severe weather from these thunderstorms that are being thrown off of this system. As we move towards the evening hours, this is going to be approximately 1 a.m. tonight for Sunday the 6th, the first hour of Sunday the 6th. And now we're seeing a lot of precipitation, especially for South Carolina here. But there is some showers and thunderstorms occurring along that kind of like southeastern North Carolina area as well. Really, really hard to tell where the heart of the storm is, but it's probably somewhere in there. As we move towards the morning hours, this is 8 a.m. On Sunday the 6th, and we see a lot more of this activity reaching onshore to South Carolina, North Carolina, and even some of this being thrown northward into North Carolina. Let's move towards the afternoon of Sunday. This is actually 4 p.m. on Sunday. We see a lot more inland areas beginning to get thunderstorms thrown onshore from this system. The heart of the storm is probably somewhere there near South Carolina. So that's where the primary wind threat would be. But we do still have the threat for severe weather and flooding from these stronger cells of storms, again, associated with the system. As we move towards kind of the overnight, things die down a little bit here. This is 1 a.m. on Monday, the 7th. Things are dying down, but as we reach towards the next afternoon, we do see things sparking back up, and it's going to be more of a severe weather risk than anything for North Carolina here, even into, again, my neck of the woods in Southeast Virginia. Lots and lots of moisture with this, so flooding is going to be, again, at least a marginal slight risk for a lot of these areas. Then overnight that night, we do get a lot of activity here along eastern North Carolina and still eastern Virginia. So Monday, Tuesday is really the primary threat for further northward areas here. Interestingly enough, we do have a cold front that is swinging through. I know this video is primarily about Chantel, but we do see this cold front coming through. So even after this system's done, we're probably going to have this system moving in and more precipitation to worry about after it's all said and done. Total precipitation for the NAM 3KM model. This is through 8 p.m. on Monday. So there is still a little bit left to happen here, especially in these areas. We saw precipitation still over this area at the very end of the model run. So maybe a little bit more than this, probably not too much more. It's really hard to break down, and I wanted to show you guys this, not so that you can get a firm understanding of how much precipitation you're going to get, but more so to give you an understanding of how much precipitation you could get. And we're seeing a lot of reds being thrown around all over the place because there is those heavier cells of thunderstorms. It's going to be really hard to predict precisely where that heaviest rainfall is going to occur, but it's really just going to be a chance for all of these areas to get the worst of it. Obviously, the primary area is this southern North Carolina, northern South Carolina coastline, where we're almost guaranteed to have a few inches of rainfall. Everywhere else, as we spread more inland and northward in here, it is going to be a little bit more hit or miss, is my expectations for this one. Probably a maximum of 3, 4, 5 inches of rainfall for some of these areas in here with the heaviest rainfall, but a much lower average of probably 1 to 2 inches of rainfall on average, with a lot of people seeing higher than that, a lot of people seeing lower than that would be what I'm expecting. As far as the maximum wind speed, this is the gusts, but this is the maximum gust swath. It's accumulated. So we're seeing the entire model run's worth of maximum winds. And again, we're looking for 39 miles per hour, which is kind of the lighter greens. And we could see a lot of that happening along this coastline, just like what the National Weather Service was calling for. But we do see a bit of it for the Outer Banks as well, especially the southern Outer Banks, where I think there's maybe a slim chance that we do see tropical storm force winds up there. I'm seeing a lot of model guidance suggest that. Obviously, right along the coast, you obviously have the sound on the inside of the Outer Banks as well. So just a lot of open water around, and it's easy to get very strong winds up there. So wouldn't surprise me one bit. But for most inland areas, we could see a maximum of, 20, 25 miles per hour. It's gusty, but it's not, anything crazy. It's nothing to write home about. I think that the one note to make is that if there is a severe storm in here, and we do see damaging winds from that, that could dramatically increase these amounts in specific cells and specific little storms. But again, it's just going to be like the rainfall, very hit or miss. Some people will get it, some people won't, and that's just the way it's going to be. So keep that in mind as well, just as far as the impacts of this system. This one has been very, very fun to track with you guys. We have been watching this one since the very, very first indication of a chance of tropical development, and now we're seeing it all the way to the end. So I love that when we've kind of gone along the journey with each other and been able to see things from the beginning till the very, very end. And that's the thing I love most about making these videos for you guys and the way that I do it, because we talk about things the second they're a 5-10% chance. And a lot of times the mainstream people, their job is to forecast, day 1, 2, 3, give you all the conditions for your exact location. But since we take a national approach and we talk about the biggest systems, we get to talk about these things when they are in their youth of developing, at the very, very beginning signs. And it's just so cool to see it all come together and have it documented on the YouTube channel. You can always look back at it, and I love to look back at things like that all the time. So many memories like that, and you kind of get an inside view as to how again, things go from start to finish. I don't know if that's cool to you guys, but it's so, so cool to me. It's really, really interesting, and I love doing what I do. So this is one of those systems where, thankfully, it's not a hugely major system. Obviously, this is a far-stretching storm, and it does have severe weather chances, so there will be dangerous impacts for some of you in there, so stay safe in there. But I am happy to forecast things like this that don't end up being catastrophic, especially in the tropics. I love these tropical depressions and tropical storms because I can have more fun about it and not really, I don't have to feel bad about the fact that it is a catastrophic system in this case. Thankfully, of course, pay attention. Everything is super unpredictable. There may be major impacts, like I said. So be safe out there. Be vigilant. And yeah, I hope nobody has any damage or anything like that. We all get through this storm unscathed, as my local area, although we're not in the heart of the storm, will be somewhat impacted from this system. So there we go. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for always watching. I can't thank you guys enough. Be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.